the universe had long been a place of quiet conquest. The Galactic Concord, a coalition of thousands of species, had ruled the stars with an iron bureaucracy. Empires rose and fell, but the Concord remained, guiding the fate of the galaxy through politics and power. Then came humanity. At first, the Concord dismissed them. Another minor species crawling from their homeworld, thinking themselves important. The universe had seen countless civilizations like this before, ambitious, reckless, but ultimately irrelevant. The Galactic Concord didn't see them as a threat. Until they fought back. The moment came when the Valra Dominion, a war-hardened empire of reptilian conquerors, saw humanity as an easy target. Their fleets descended upon the Sol system, expecting a quick, decisive victory. After all, the Valra had crushed species far stronger than these upstart humans. But what followed changed the galaxy forever. Humanity had always been underestimated. Their history was one of war, resilience, and an unbreakable spirit. When the Valra fleet attacked Mars, the humans didn't just resist, they annihilated their invaders. The Valra's warships, equipped with energy weapons capable of tearing apart entire cities, found themselves overwhelmed by something they had never faced before: raw, human ingenuity. Instead of fighting on the Valra's terms, the humans adapted. Their AI-driven weapons learned faster than any biological commander. Their railguns, primitive by Concord standards, ripped through enemy shields with kinetic force no energy barrier could fully absorb. And then there was the sheer audacity of human soldiers, fighting in the vacuum of space, using powered exoskeletons to board enemy vessels in brutal hand-to-hand combat. The Valra invasion lasted a week. By the end of it, their fleet was nothing but wreckage orbiting Saturn, and the Concord took notice. Humanity had done the impossible. But the Battle of Sol was only the beginning. The real war was coming. Across the galaxy, in the High Council chambers of the Galactic Concord, the warlords and politicians gathered. Holograms of the destroyed Valra fleet played before them, repeating the same impossible truth: humanity had crushed a power that had stood unchallenged for centuries. Whispers of fear spread. If a minor species could achieve this level of destruction, what would happen if they were left unchecked? Among them, Chancellor Yelvorn of the Xanathi, an ancient race of telepathic scholars, spoke with calculated calm. They are dangerous. But they are also unpredictable. Warlord Zyron of the Kradari, a species of hulking, armored war beasts, scoffed. Then we crush them now, before they gain more power. But others hesitated. The humans had displayed a level of aggression and adaptability unseen in eons. A full-scale war against them could turn into something catastrophic. The Concord's greatest strength was its control, and humanity had just proved they would not be controlled. A decision was made. The humans would be invited into the Galactic Concord, not as equals, but as a species to be studied, monitored, and, if necessary, contained. Of course, the humans had other plans. On Earth, the victory against the Valra had done more than just secure humanity's survival, it had ignited something greater. The dream of the stars, once distant and uncertain, was now within reach. Nations put aside their differences. The United Earth Federation was formed, uniting humanity under one banner. Their fleets expanded, their technology advanced, and their soldiers trained for a future they all knew was inevitable. Because humanity had learned something from history, peace was never given, it was earned. So when the Galactic Concord sent their envoys, veiled in polite diplomacy, humanity listened. They sat in grand halls, exchanged words, and played the game of politics. But beneath the surface, their fleets continued to grow. Because humanity was not content to simply join the stars. They would explore them. They would protect them. And when the time came, they would show the galaxy what it truly meant to be unstoppable. The arrival of the Galactic Concord's diplomatic fleet was nothing short of breathtaking. Their flagship, a massive obsidian construct named the Celestial Edict, hung in orbit over Earth like a god peering down upon mortals. It was surrounded by an escort of sleek, silver-hulled vessels, each brimming with technology centuries beyond human understanding. The message was clear: the Concord had come not as equals, but as overseers. In Geneva, where the diplomatic summit was to take place, the tension was palpable. Representatives from the newly formed United Earth Federation sat across from the Concord's envoys in a grand chamber lined with the flags of Earth's nations, both a display of unity and a reminder that humanity was still a civilization forged from struggle. Chancellor Yelvorn of the Xanathi, his elongated, blue-skinned form draped in flowing robes, spoke first. His voice carried the weight of 1,000 years of diplomacy. Humanity has proven itself to be formidable, he said, his dark, lidless eyes scanning the room. And the Concord does not ignore such matters. We extend to you an invitation, one that many would consider an honor. General Elias Voss, representing the UEF's military, leaned forward, his sharp eyes meeting Yelvorn's unblinking gaze. An invitation to what, exactly? The Concord's other delegates remained silent, watching. Even the Kradari warlord, Zyron, who had previously advocated for crushing humanity, now observed with quiet intrigue. Yelvorn's expression did not change. To join the Galactic Concord. To become part of a greater order, one that has maintained peace and stability in this galaxy for millennia. The room went still. It was an offer that, on the surface, seemed generous. Many species had fought for centuries just for a chance to be recognized by the Concord. For humanity to be offered a seat so soon was unprecedented. But the humans were not fools. President Helena Armitage, leader of the UEF, folded her hands. And what, exactly, would that entail? Yelvorn's lips curled ever so slightly. Guidance. Supervision. Humanity is strong, yes, but young. The Concord will ensure your development follows a path that does not lead to chaos or destruction. There it was. The illusion of choice. The humans were not being offered a seat at the table. They were being placed in a cage, one lined with silk, perhaps, but a cage nonetheless. Armitage's voice was calm, measured. And if we refuse? A faint hum filled the room as the Concord envoys exchanged subtle glances. It was Zyron who finally spoke, his deep, guttural voice carrying a note of amusement. Then you will learn what happens to those who stand against the Concord. It was a challenge. A threat wrapped in diplomacy. But General Voss merely smiled. Funny. That's exactly what the Valra said before we sent their fleet to hell. The air in the room turned electric. The Concord delegation was not accustomed to being spoken to in such a way, certainly not by a species they still considered inferior. Yelvorn sighed. Humanity must understand. The Concord exists to protect civilization itself. Those who act against it often regret doing so. Armitage's expression did not waver. Then it's a good thing we have no intention of acting against the Concord. She leaned forward slightly. But let's be clear, we will not be leashed. If we join, it will be as equals. Nothing less. Silence. Then, Yelvorn let out a slow breath. We shall consider your terms. But the humans already knew the truth. The Concord had no intention of letting them remain independent. They had made up their minds long before stepping foot on Earth. This was not diplomacy. It was the first move in a much larger game. Later, in a hidden military base beneath the Arctic ice, General Voss stood before a holographic projection of the UEF's classified fleet. New warships were under construction, their designs pushing the limits of human ingenuity. Battle simulations ran in real time, preparing for every possible scenario. The Concord thought humanity would accept their leash. They were wrong. Double production on the Odyssey-class battleships, Voss ordered. And get me Admiral Kovac. If they want to play this game, then we'd better be ready. For humanity was not content to simply survive. They would thrive. And if war was coming, then the stars would burn. The Concord had left Earth's orbit, their sleek diplomatic fleet vanishing into the void. Officially, the talks were ongoing. Unofficially, both sides knew the truth, war was coming. The only question was when. But humanity had never been one to sit and wait. Deep beneath the Arctic ice, inside the UEF's classified Black Sky Command facility, a meeting was underway. Holograms of star systems flickered in the dimly lit war room, each marked with Concord-controlled sectors. At the center of it all stood General Elias Voss, his expression grim. "We have confirmation," he said, his voice cutting through the room like a blade. "The Concorde is already moving against us. Their envoys were a formality. Surveillance drones have been detected near our colonies, and we've intercepted transmissions suggesting that a fleet mobilization is imminent." Admiral Mira Kovac, commander of humanity's growing star fleet, exhaled sharply. "How long do we have?" "Months. A year at most." President Armitage, her face cast in cold blue light from the holograms, tapped her fingers against the table. "Then we strike first." The room stilled. Voss nodded. "That's why we're here. If we wait for the Concorde to tighten their grip, we'll be facing an invasion force we can't repel. But if we act now, we can level the playing field." Armitage's eyes locked onto his. "What do you propose?" Voss turned toward the projection. A red marker pulsed over a system on the outskirts of Concorde space. "The Chiron Relay," he said. "It's one of the primary relay hubs for the Concorde's communication network. If we take it out, we cut off their ability to coordinate across multiple sectors." Admiral Kovac crossed her arms. "That system is heavily fortified. If we go in with a full fleet, they'll know we're declaring war." Voss's expression darkened. "That's why we're sending in Ghost Squadron." The room went silent. Ghost Squadron was a name spoken only in the highest levels of UEF command. They were more than soldiers. They were specialists, spies, infiltrators, assassins. A unit that technically didn't exist. If the Concorde thought humanity would fight fair, they were about to learn otherwise. 3 weeks later, the Phantom Dawn, a state-of-the-art stealth frigate, drifted toward the Chiron Relay, hidden behind the shadow of a nearby asteroid. Inside, Commander Dax Mercer of Ghost Squadron stood with his team, their armor matte black, their visors glowing faintly with HUD data. "Final check," Mercer said. "Weapons hot, breaching charges prepped. We hit the control station, plant the virus, and get out. No unnecessary engagements." The squad responded with sharp nods. They were the best of the best, but they all knew the risks. If captured, the Concorde wouldn't take prisoners. Minutes later, the Phantom Dawn launched them toward the relay in near silence, their thrusters designed to minimize emissions. They drifted toward the station like specters, magnetic boots clamping onto its hull as they reached their entry point. Mercer signaled, and within seconds, the breach charges detonated. The squad slipped inside before alarms could fully engage. They moved with ruthless precision, eliminating patrols before they could react. But as they neared the control station, a new sound filled the corridors, * metallic footstep star. Mercer cursed. "They know we're here." Turning a corner, they came face to face with something unexpected, * Concorde Praetorian star. 7-foot-tall enforcers clad in shimmering silver armor, their weapons humming with plasma energy. One of them stepped forward, his voice distorted by his helmet. "Humans. You should not have come here." Mercer grinned. "Funny. I was just about to say the same thing." The corridor erupted into chaos. Bullets and plasma fire collided in a violent dance of destruction. The Praetorians were strong, but Ghost Squadron was faster. Utilizing experimental kinetic blades and electromagnetic pulse rounds, the humans cut through their defenses. Mercer planted the virus into the station's core as the battle raged. "We're done. Move." With seconds to spare, they launched themselves back into space as the virus activated. The Chiron relay flickered, its systems crashing. Across the Concorde's network, entire fleets lost communication, scrambling in disarray. For the first time in millennia, the Concorde had been blindsided. Humanity had struck first. And this was only the beginning. The Chiron relay was dead. Across Concord space, entire sectors plunged into communication chaos, fleet movements disrupted, command chains severed. The attack had been surgical, devastating, and, most importantly, deniable. The Concorde knew humanity was responsible, but they had no proof, just whispers in the dark. But humanity wasn't done yet. On the bridge of the UEF Warhammer, Admiral Mira Kovac watched the reports flood in. Ghost Squadron had made it out, and the virus was working as planned. The Concorde's command network was in shambles. "This is it," Kovac said, turning to her officers. "The moment we've been waiting for. We hit them while they're blind." Her second-in-command, Captain Isaac Halloway, nodded grimly. "Our fleets are ready. Just give the order." Kovac didn't hesitate. "Deploy Task Force Orion. Target key Concorde supply lines, but keep our presence minimal. We're not here to conquer, we're here to destabilize." Across the galaxy, human warships moved like phantoms. Quick-strike fleets emerged from slipstream corridors, hammering resource convoys, hijacking weapons shipments, and vanishing before the Concorde could respond. But humanity had more than just warships. They had ideas. On the industrial world of Varkos 9, a species known as the Belarath had labored under Concorde rule for centuries. Their world was rich in minerals, their people treated as little more than an expendable workforce. Until now. Because when a shipment of stolen UEF weapons mysteriously arrived in the hands of resistance fighters, everything changed. Dion Varric, leader of the Belarath Liberation Front, stood before his people in the underground caverns where they had hidden for years. He held up a sleek, black rifle, far beyond anything the Concorde had ever allowed them to wield. "The humans fight," he said, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Not for conquest. Not for power. But because they refuse to be ruled. They fight because they know that freedom is worth the battle." He locked eyes with his people. "We have lived in chains for too long." He raised the rifle into the air. "No more." The Belarath rose. And they weren't alone. Across the galaxy, in the wake of humanity's strike, others saw an opportunity. Species that had long lived under the heel of the Concorde, oppressed, taxed, silenced, began to whisper among themselves. If humans could stand against the greatest empire in the universe, what was stopping anyone else? One rebellion became two. Then three. Then entire sectors erupted in defiance. The Galactic Concorde, for the first time in thousands of years, was losing control. On Earth, President Armitage read the latest reports. A small smile played at the corner of her lips. "It's happening," she murmured. General Voss nodded, arms crossed. "They underestimated us. They thought we'd fall in line." He exhaled sharply. "Now they're learning what happens when humanity refuses to kneel." Admiral Kovac leaned forward. "We have momentum, but let's not get cocky. They're wounded, but they're not beaten." Armitage nodded. "Agreed. We keep hitting them in the shadows, but we do not overextend." Her expression darkened. "Because make no mistake, they will retaliate." On the Concorde capital world of Zenithus Prime, the High Council was in chaos. "This is unacceptable." Warlord Zyron roared, his massive, armored form towering over the others. "The humans strike our fleets, arm insurgents, and mock us at every turn. We must bring fire to their worlds." Chancellor Yelvorn, always the voice of reason, held up a hand. "The humans have proven more cunning than we anticipated. They do not fight wars in the way we do. If we strike blindly, we play into their hands." Zyron slammed a clawed fist onto the table. "Then what do you propose, Chancellor?" A slow, knowing smile spread across Yelvorn's face. "We do what the humans do." He turned to a shadowed figure standing at the edge of the chamber, an agent of the Concorde's most secretive intelligence branch. "Send in the exarchs." The war was no longer coming. It had already begun. And the first casualties would not be on the battlefield. They would be in the dark. In whispers. In assassinations. Because humanity had made their move. Now, it was the Concorde's turn. The war had begun, but not in the way the galaxy had expected. There were no grand fleet battles yet, no planets turned to ash. Humanity had struck from the shadows, disrupting supply chains, arming rebellions, sowing chaos. The Concorde, caught off guard, had hesitated. Now, they were striking back. But they wouldn't meet humanity's fleets in open war. They would strike where it hurt the most. Geneva, Earth, 2:37 a.m. local time. The assassin moved like a wraith through the halls of the UEF headquarters. Cloaked in a light-bending stealth suit, it bypassed motion sensors, infrared beams, and biometric scanners as if they were child's play. The target, President Helena Armitage. The mission, eliminate her and fracture humanity's leadership. In the dark, the Exarch reached the reinforced doors of the presidential suite. It placed a hand against the lock, advanced nanites seeping into the mechanism, rewriting security codes in seconds. The door slid open. The Exarch stepped forward, silent, a plasma blade emerging from its wrist. One strike, one precise cut, and humanity's leader would fall. It lunged. A gunshot cracked through the silence. The Exarch staggered as a bullet struck its chest, its cloaking flickering out. Across the room, President Armitage stood with a smoking pistol in hand, eyes cold. A second shot followed. The Exarch dodged, unnatural reflexes sending it twisting away. It raised a hand, activating an energy pulse meant to disable all weapons in the room. Except it didn't work. Armitage smirked. Human ingenuity, you son of a bitch. The assassin had a fraction of a second to react before the hidden turrets in the ceiling fired in unison, tearing its body apart. Outside the door, armed guards rushed in, too late to save their leader, but just in time to witness her still standing, unshaken. Secure the perimeter, Armitage ordered. And get me General Voss. It's time we sent a message of our own. Black Sky Command, Arctic Base Omega. The Concorde just tried to assassinate our president. General Elias Voss's voice was a growl of barely restrained fury. The War Council sat in tense silence, watching security footage of the failed attempt. The Exarch's shattered body had already been taken for analysis. They're done playing defense, Admiral Kovac said, arms crossed. They're coming for our leadership, our infrastructure. They want to cripple us before we can mount a full-scale war. Armitage, her expression unreadable, leaned forward. So we do the same. All eyes turned to her. No more quiet skirmishes. No more waiting, she said. The Exarchs are their best assassins, their best covert operatives. But we are humanity. We do not run. She turned to Voss. I want every Ghost Squadron unit deployed. Target their war planners, their strategists. If they want to play this game, we'll show them how it's really done. Voss nodded grimly. I'll make the calls. Concorde High Council, Zenithus Prime. Chancellor Yelvorn read the report in silence. The assassination attempt had failed. Worse, the humans now knew about the Exarchs. Across the chamber, Warlord Zyron paced like a caged beast. We should have sent a fleet. We should have razed their cities and ground their armies into dust. Yelvorn exhaled slowly. No. That is exactly what they want. He gestured to another report, one far more troubling. In the past 5 days, 3 of our top intelligence officers have gone missing. 2 high-ranking fleet admirals were found dead in their quarters. All unrelated. All, too precise. Zyron's eyes narrowed. You think the humans? I know it was the humans, Yelvorn interrupted. They are not fools. They understand war in a way we did not expect. He leaned back, folding his hands. They are not waiting for us to retaliate. His voice was grim. They are already inside our walls. Unknown location, deep inside Concorde space. Dax Mercer watched from the shadows as the Crawdari admiral stepped into his personal chambers. The alien warlord, a key figure in the Concorde's upcoming invasion plans, had no idea his final moments had arrived. Mercer's knife was in his hand before the Admiral even turned around. The blade cut through flesh in one swift motion. The warlord fell, gurgling. Mercer wiped the blood off on his sleeve and activated his communicator. "Target eliminated," he said. "Moving to Phase 2. A small explosion shook the compound in the distance. The humans were ghosts, striking at the heart of an empire that had never known fear. They did now. Earth, War Room. Admiral Kovac looked over the latest intelligence reports. The war was escalating faster than anyone had predicted. The Concorde was enraged, their retaliation inevitable. She turned to General Voss. "We have them panicking, but that won't last. They'll be coming with everything they have." Voss nodded. "Then we do what we do best." Armitage's voice was clear, unshaken. "We prepare for war." The Galactic Concorde had underestimated humanity. They thought they could intimidate them into submission. They thought they could silence them with assassins in the dark. They were wrong. Humanity did not bow. Humanity did not kneel. And soon, the stars would tremble beneath their wrath. The war had been fought in the shadows long enough. The assassinations, the sabotage, the skirmishes in the void, none of it had broken humanity's will. If anything, it had only made them stronger. And now, the Concorde had finally realized their mistake. The High Council had gathered its fleets, the largest armada ever assembled in their history. Thousands of warships, bristling with weapons, surging toward a single target. Earth. Lunar Defense Command, high orbit above the moon. Admiral Mira Kovac stood on the bridge of the UEF Warhammer, her expression unreadable as she gazed at the incoming Concorde fleet. "Status?" she asked. "All orbital defenses are online," replied Captain Isaac Halloway. "Mars garrisons have reinforced positions. Civilian evacuation protocols are still in progress, but if they hit us in the next few hours, a lot of people are going to be caught in the crossfire." Kovac nodded. "They won't have the chance. We're not letting them get that close." She turned to her officers. "Broadcast to all UEF forces. Today, we stand. Today, we show them why humanity is a force they should have never provoked. Deep space, Concorde Armada approach." Chancellor Yelvorn stood aboard the bridge of the Imperator's Will, the flagship of the invasion force. "We will break them," growled Warlord Zyron, his talons gripping the hilt of his ceremonial war blade. Yelvorn was less convinced. The humans had defied every prediction, every assumption. And yet, the High Council had insisted, "Soul must burn." "We should have finished them in the shadows," he thought. "Now, we have forced them into a war where they have nothing left to lose." "Signal the fleet," he ordered. "We begin the attack." The battle begins. The void ignited with light. From behind the moon, hundreds of UEF warships surged forward. Fighters and bombers swarmed like angry wasps, cutting through the vastness of space, leaving contrails of plasma and debris. The Concorde's dreadnoughts fired first, their weapons tearing through the blackness like lances of fire. Orbital platforms around Earth retaliated, launching kinetic rods that struck with the force of nuclear bombs. Then, the fleets collided. Destroyers weaved between battleships, torpedoes streaking through the chaos. Carrier groups unleashed waves of drones that swarmed the Concorde's formations, overwhelming shields and ripping into exposed hulls. The humans fought with precision, with adaptability. For every ship lost, 3 more filled the gap. They did not fight like the Concorde, who relied on rigid formations and overwhelming might. They fought like a swarm. Like a storm. Mars Command, the final gambit. General Elias Voss stood in the underground command center beneath Olympus Mons, watching the battle unfold. He turned to President Armitage. "It's time." She nodded. "Initiate Project Revenant." Across the battle, hidden within the chaos, something else moved. Dark, angular shapes detached from asteroids, their surfaces absorbing all light. Experimental stealth cruisers, their weapons designed for a single purpose, slip past the enemy lines and strike at the heart. Their target, the Imperator's will. Aboard the Imperator's will. Yelvorn watched as the battle spiraled out of control. This isn't possible, he muttered. They should be breaking. Instead, humanity was winning. Then, alarms blared. The Imperator's will shook violently as explosions erupted along its hull. Cloaked ships, human vessels, had infiltrated their defensive line. The lights flickered. Systems crashed. And then, with a deafening explosion, the bridge ruptured. Yelvorn's last thought before the void swallowed him was simple. We never understood them. Earth, victory, but at a cost. The Concorde fleet, leaderless and disoriented, faltered. Some ships tried to retreat. Others were obliterated by the relentless assault of the UEF's forces. And then, it was over. The Battle of Seoul had ended. But victory had come at a price. Thousands of ships had been lost. Entire sections of Earth's orbital stations were in ruins. The moon bore fresh scars from the bombardment. Admiral Kovac sat back in her chair, exhaling slowly. We held. General Voss's voice crackled over the comms. Damn right we did. President Armitage watched the shattered remnants of the Concorde fleet drifting in the void. She knew what would come next. They had not just survived. They had won. And now, it was humanity's turn to take the war to them. The Battle of Seoul had shattered the Galactic Concorde's illusion of invincibility. Humanity had not only defended its homeworld but annihilated the Concorde's most powerful fleet. Now, the survivors fled. Now, humanity pursued. The war was no longer about survival. It was about retribution. UEF War Room, Earth. President Helena Armitage stood before a massive holomap, tracing the Concorde's retreating forces. Around her, military leaders, intelligence operatives, and fleet commanders waited for her decision. Admiral Mira Kovac leaned forward. The Concorde is fractured. Their leadership is in disarray. If we push now, we could bring their entire empire crashing down. General Elias Voss crossed his arms. Agreed. But this isn't just about vengeance. We need to make sure they never come back. Armitage nodded. They came to burn our world, to erase us. Her voice was firm, resolute. Now, we make sure no one ever dares to do that again. She turned to Kovac. Mobilize the fleets. We take the fight to them. The fall of Concorde worlds. The first target was Zenithus Prime, the Concorde's second-largest military hub. Humanity's forces emerged from slipstream like specters of vengeance. Orbital defenses crumbled under precise, coordinated strikes. UEF commandos infiltrated ground facilities, disabling command centers and capturing vital intelligence. The planet's rulers pleaded for a ceasefire. Humanity offered unconditional surrender or destruction. Zenithus Prime fell in a single day. Then came Varkos 9, where humanity didn't need to fight. The Belarath, armed and inspired by human defiance, rose in full rebellion. The Concorde garrisons were slaughtered by the very people they had once oppressed. Planet by planet, the Concorde's control collapsed. The last stand, Concorde Prime. The heart of the Empire lay before them, Concorde Prime the capital world. Once, it had been a symbol of galactic dominance. Now, it was a fortress on the verge of collapse. The remnants of the Concorde's fleet had rallied for a last stand, battered but desperate. On the bridge of the UEF Warhammer, Kovac studied the enemy formations. They're cornered. They know if they lose here, it's over. General Voss's voice came through the comms. Then let's end it. The battle for Concorde Prime. The battle raged in orbit, but the outcome was inevitable. Humanity had adapted, evolved, and surpassed their foes. The Concorde's rigid, bureaucratic war machine was no match for humanity's fluid, ruthless efficiency. Within hours, the last dreadnoughts burned. Then came the final push. Humanity's forces landed on Concord Prime itself. UEF Marines stormed the High Council's palace. Resistance crumbled before them. And in the throne chamber, Chancellor Yelvorn knelt before President Armitage, shackled and defeated. "It is over," he said, his voice hollow. "You have won." Armitage studied him. This was never just about winning. She stepped closer, her voice like steel. This was about making sure no one forgets what happens when they try to break humanity. Yelvorn lowered his head. "Then what will you do?" Armitage turned to the cameras broadcasting across the galaxy. She addressed not just the Concord, but every species watching, waiting. "We do not seek conquest. We do not seek to rule." She gestured around at the broken remnants of the Concord's power. "But understand this, humanity will fight. Humanity will endure. And if you ever come for us again..." Her gaze hardened. "We will do worse than destroy you." The message was clear. The war was over. And humanity was no longer a species to be underestimated. The dawn of a new era. The galactic Concord crumbled. In its place, new powers rose, many of them liberated species who had joined humanity's cause. Humanity did not claim dominion. Instead, they ensured that no single power would ever rule the stars unchecked again. And so, as their fleets returned home, as the fires of war dimmed, one truth echoed across the galaxy. The species that had once been ignored, once been seen as insignificant, had become something else entirely. A force that would never bow. A force that would never yield. A force that would forever be known as the Starbound heroes.